Excellent. It's great to be back in Sydney at RIU. It's been a number of years since the company has presented here, so fantastic to come at a time where the company has just delivered major milestones across its advanced copper development on the Chilean coastline. So today I'll just run through some of the outcomes of our pre-feasibility on our very, very large copper project. We just heard from Rob a lot about gold in Western Australia, gold in Australia. And just to put this project into context, we've been developing this asset for over 15 years now on the Chilean coastline, from nothing to a billion-tonne resource play, which has just delivered a key milestone in a pre-feasibility for a project that will put out around about 100,000 tonnes of annual copper production and around 50,000 ounces of gold. And again, coming back to what would that be as a gold deposit in Western Australia, that would be a circa 400,000 ounce producer. So that is just to put this into context for what the company is working on. In addition to that, we've also delivered a pre-feasibility on a very large associated water project. And we'll talk about that and the importance of that for our strategy to fund this project without needing huge amounts of equity financing to be able to do that. And then we'll also discuss the recent discovery of La Verde, certainly looking like the third leg of growth for the company and something that is going to be taking centre stage over the coming year as we start to get our teeth into that drill out. So just firstly, a very, very exciting discovery that is putting out several 100-metre intercepts from near surface, added after 6 years of consolidation efforts to the Costa Fuego hub, and which is about to release another 19 drill holes to the market. As I mentioned about a month ago, we delivered our 2 milestones in 2 pre-feasibilities at the end of the first quarter, and we did that against a backdrop of very, very elevated prices for our 2 key commodities in copper and gold. But it is the strategic asset of water which really separates the company from all of its peers. It's an asset that no other peer has to be able to lever as a monetisation opportunity to fund a very large copper project, something that is very, very challenging, something that takes on average in today's age of around 20 years to go from discovery through to first production. We're at about the 15-year mark and very much on track to deliver this by the end of the decade. We have a very tight capital structure. We have about $12.5 million in cash and funds incoming, and a coverage of analysts which is been really tilted towards the North American market, as the last 3.5 years has been about Hot Chili expanding this project and its knowledge base to a large capital pool on the other side of the world that traditionally funds these projects into production. But with the changing of the guard in the company and moving towards our final definitive feasibility, we've seen board and management changes, and just 5 minutes ago the company announced a new non-executive chair has just joined the company, as well as an executive project director. So mine build credentials have been added to the company this morning, significant mine build credentials, and we welcome the very high-profile Executive Vice President of Goldfields to our chair. Just looking at the asset, very unique to have an asset of this scale down on the coastline. Most of these very large copper projects are up at 4,000 metres altitude, which means they're very expensive to build, which means they're very expensive to run. And whoever has been up at 4,000 metres altitude and walked around about 100 metres could probably testify to the challenge that those projects have. And I guess the advantage of being down right next to infrastructure, 50 kilometres from port on the Pan-American Highway, is this is a project that is not just advantaged by that low elevation and the infrastructure advantage, but it's the 10 years of permitting advance that Hot Chili has put into this project, which puts us ahead of most of our peers in this space. There are only 5 projects outside of the majors that are capable of this type of copper production globally. And so we're very much on track to deliver our environmental impact assessment. It will be our last permit required to build this mine. And so last week we got significant help from the Chilean Ministry of Economy, where they classed this project as a project of national significance and registered it for priority status and fast-track final approvals. So we'll now cast our eyes 30 kilometres down the road, again to Australian drill rigs sitting on the ground in Chile, giving us that RC productivity advantage. In the background there you can see an old family-run oxide pit that was never able to be consolidated into this very large porphyry footprint, which had sat idle for many, many years, held by a mid-tier that walked away. Hot Chili moved in and did what it does best, which is work with the families of Chile to do deals others can't. We finally unified this under one company. We started drilling, and on the second hole started producing very wide, higher grade intersections from near surface. And this will be very, very good for our front-end mine design, adding high-grade bulk tonnage, additional mine life, and pushing this mine life from 20 out towards 30 years. We're very early on in this discovery. We've just completed our first phase 10,000 metre program, about 31 drill holes complete now, 19 that are about to be released to market. It's over 1,000 metres long, it's 550 metres wide. Every drill hole has hit copper porphyry mineralisation, and over 3/4 of the holes are ending in mineralisation. So we have a large diamond program that will follow this. But it's also what we're seeing around this that is giving us early indications that this porphyry may well be as significant as our cornerstone asset in Cortadera, which added 700 million tonnes on the coastline to the north. So a very exciting time there on the exploration front. And this is all about how meaningful is your copper project on the global stage. This is something that's been a learning journey for Hot Chili, an Australian company that went to the world's largest copper producing nation, focused down where you could build these assets and you could explore them. And now we have one of the top 10 undeveloped copper resources in the global pipeline outside of the majors that is about to push into tier 1 space with very much a very typical grade of the average grade of new supply. This is something that we've been talking about a lot. And over the last 10 years, I've seen the knowledge bank in Australia now move towards this space. Copper is a bulk commodity, and the De Grasses of the world, the discovery that probably, I guess, tilted the Australian market mind to copper being a high-grade commodity, that is very much the fringe of the industry and not the norm. Where the lowest grade producers live, they also live in the lowest production cost space of the cost curve, something that also surprises a lot of people. So this is an economy of scale bulk business, and so scale is very, very important. And that scale and that low altitude and those infrastructure advantages deliver very, very robust economics, as our pre-feasibility has demonstrated. So this production scale here of around 116,000 tonnes of copper equivalent, underpinned by about 86% revenue base on our copper of about 95,000 tonnes annually, is akin to an Oz Minerals production base. Very low strip ratio, one of the lowest capital intensities in the sector, first quartile, and one of the highest quartile production capacities in this global sector. 20-year mine life and strip ratios at 1.5 are very, very pleasing outcomes from the PEA to the pre-feasibility. So a number of improvements, also a number of areas where we had to apply a significant amount of de-risking. We very much took this seriously because what Hot Chili is now entering is a space where we're negotiating potential partnership opportunities with tier 1 counterparties. And so de-risking and making this a very conventional project was very much what we were focused on in this pre-feasibility. What we're very pleased about is our position on the cost curve. We have maintained that very low cost base, sitting at cost just out of the first quartile, with first quartile capital intensity, and that's about buildability and longevity. That exposure to copper on this large resource base also goes straight into the exposure to the metal price and the leverage that you have So you increase 10% in the copper price, you increase over 30% in the post-tax NPV on this project. And that is one of the highest leverage projects in the sector outside of the majors because of that scale. And this is something that I talk about a lot, elevation and capital intensity. It is the real challenge of the global copper sector. It is skewed because of high elevation projects that dominate supply in this sector. The higher the elevation, the higher the capital intensity. And so we see the challenges that BHP is facing even in their brownfields investments in Chile, one of their largest investment deployment regions in the world, $12 billion US going into an expansion of their brownfields operations just to maintain production at around 1.4 million tonnes per annum. And that is going in at about $24,000 an annualised tonne of copper, now comparing to $14,000 an annualised tonne of copper for a greenfield development with Costa Fuego. So very pleasing to be in that space. Some of the areas of risk mitigation that we really applied to this project, de-risking the back end underground on this. This is 70% open pit feed, 30% underground. It may well be an all open pit operation in the future. A scoping study comparison was done with the pre-feasibility that was positive. We'll now take that forward as one of our optimisation phases, and a lot of work done on the tails facility, all about our social licence to operate. So a very compact footprint, sitting right on the Pan American Highway, central processing hub, 20 million tonne operating scale, and also a SXEW plant putting off cathode production of around about 10 to 12,000 tonnes per annum. So we talked at the beginning about Huasco water, and these were the first numbers that the company has put out on what the economics look like. This is a unique opportunity that we sit in. We sit in a region of Chile that has the largest cluster of major undeveloped projects in the copper space in the world. This will be the next 1 million tonnes of supply. It can't be found anywhere else in the world. So it's unique that Hot Chile has the only maritime concession to take water out of the ocean in a country that does not allow water to be taken out of the ground for mining anymore. And so that 10-year process to secure our maritime concession has put us in a first mover advantage, firstly to enable our project to be developed with the use of seawater as a stage 1 project, but also to develop a regional opportunity to supply desalinated water to all of our peers, including BHP, who has just moved into the Huasco or the Vicuña joint venture with Lundin on Jose Maria and Filo, which have recently been in the press with their resource upgrades. So this opportunity is really an opportunity for Hot Chile to outsource its water infrastructure, save $150 million of capital on our project build, and be able to potentially sell this project to one of the majors in the water space, which is a very, very typical route for most copper projects in Chile to take. It's one of the key levers that is used to reduce capital intensity, to monetize assets and assist with financing. And what you see here is a staged approach to building a multi-user desalinated water network that has a 4,000 litre per second catchment. And this is a multi-billion-dollar investment opportunity for the world's largest water consortiums that at the moment are very, very attracted to Chile, like moths to a light, because this is one of the highest return jurisdictions in the world for water investments. And this situation in Chile has attracted some of the biggest names to that space. So Hot Chile is now developing this asset, both its customer base as well as the studies that will take this forward to a decision by the company to potentially fully outsource this asset to effectively pay for half this copper project to be built outside of the debt side of the financing. And that is extremely unique. One of the biggest challenges in our industry is how does a small junior build a very large project without diluting its shareholders to oblivion? And this is the answer and the focus that Hot Chile has on that very large financing challenge that all juniors face. So really, we have a very, very high quality, advanced, near-term and meaningful scaled copper project, the largest on the ASX and certainly one of the top 10 undeveloped projects of the world. It is sitting shoulder to shoulder with a unique strategic asset that we have a first mover advantage on, and which we can monetize and is seeing significant interest from 13 of the 16 largest water companies in the world. And lastly, a very, very exciting discovery, which will be adding a significant amount of growth and certainly plotting our pathway to how we build this to a Tier 1 asset. Thank you.